7.23 brings many improvements and a couple little features too. The biggest news, in my opinion, is that VRF hardware offloading is coming. Currently, this capability is available on CRS 800 series switches only, but the feature will be available on more devices in the future. In addition to this, you will also be able to create switch ACL rules that send traffic to whichever VRF it should go to. Then there is a new minor DHCP server feature. Up to now, if you had a server that hands out addresses to things that you need to manage like other routers, switches, home servers, or even RouterOS apps, you would have to manually make their releases static and just remember the IP addresses so you can later access them. But there is now an option to enable this new thing that will automatically create DNS entries for any DHCP clients you get. This way, you don't have to worry about IP addresses changing, but you still have to remember the domain names that get created and use those in place of the IPs. In this case, the first one, CCR2116VETH app webtop.lan, is probably not something most people would want to memorize in place of an IP. But the other one, this CRS804.lan, could be pretty convenient. What do you think? For MikroTik devices, those names are generated based on their system identity, and that's another change. The default device names will now be based on the product code. By the way, if you like running DNS over HTTP, you can now choose your DoH server with much more freedom, because we now support HTTP too. You'll find that several servers that did not work in the past will work now, albeit only on ARM64, x86, and CHR architectures. The support for DHCP option82 in our bridges has been changed. The previous DHCP option82 setting has been removed and replaced by DHCP agent circuit ID and DHCP agent remote ID. Both are string values that can accept multiple variables in a single line. Refer to our documentation for an example. IP neighbor discovery now separates devices found through LLDP in their own section. And in the discovery settings, it is possible to disable LLDP MED extension if you like. On more exciting news, we have added a bunch of SNMP OID values like DoH1 DSTP port designated bridge, DoH1 DSTP port forward transitions, LLDP message TX hold multiplier, and many more. There's a list of new IDs. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just being silly. But then we have hardware offloaded QoS improvements. The profile settings now have a new benchmark for automap when creating a new profile. If you enter any PCP or DSCP values here and click OK, VLAN and IP mappings will be created accordingly on your behalf. Then there are a bunch of new apps in our built-in catalog. I won't examine them, but I will go over the app and container changes. First up, there is a new simple restart button for apps that might need it for some reason. Then there is also a new safety feature. Network outgoing access can now be disabled with one click if you're worried that your container might start talking to something online by itself. Furthermore, when you do the initial setup for apps and you choose the disk for storage, a single swap file will be created there that can be used by all apps and the base system as well. Additionally, disk storage for apps can now support the XFS file system if you prefer it over the previously accepted ext4 and BTRFS file systems. Then containers in general now have a new memory max setting. It is the upper RAM limit that a single container can use before it gets shut down. Now, this does not affect how much swap memory can be used. The setting found in config is applied to all containers by default, but you can override it in individual container settings as well. Other new container settings include stop on unhealthy, restart policy, along with other related properties, restart interval, restart max count, and restart count. Containers now support audio devices, so you could plug in a microphone or pair of speakers into your RouterOS device and have a container do something with that. SSD disk Smart Info can now be read directly from RouterOS. Then it is also possible to check and repair ext4, BTRFS, and XFS file systems. Reverse proxy can now be used with IPv6 and with VRFs. And on top of that, if you add the rproxy logging topic, you will get SNI logging. Last quick mentions. Firewall mangle rules can now drop packets immediately without having to process them in another chain. The firewall matcher in bridge port will work even if you do not set the Use IP Firewall setting to Yes. We now have 3 new file manipulation CLI tools: copy, tail, and head. They're just like the ones in Linux. MQTT messages can now be monitored in real time using the monitor data command under subscriptions. Support for Wiliot Bluetooth tags has been introduced. When performing logging on a remote server, you can now use TLS. And finally, when using the serial port remote access feature, you now have the option to run it in TCP client or UDP mode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.